Zoro versus Oden. Now, I didn't know this battle was as contentious as it was until I seen this post on Instagram. And a lot of people were giving different answers, and now I'm here to give my answer on who would win this fight. Oden versus Kaido. Now, we will only be using Oden's feat from his Kaido's fight, as this was when Oden was at his strongest, being stated to be many times stronger than his previous self after his voyages with Roger and Whitebeard. And though Kaido and Oden's fight doesn't last long in the anime or manga, we are blatantly told that their fight has been going on for a long time because Kaido underestimated Oden's strength. But with what we're shown in this fight through the extended anime version is first Oden uses Paradise Toshka and clashes with Dragon Form Kaido a few times before being thrown away by Kaido using his hair. Kaido throws him through a mountain, and then Oden gets up right after, looking visibly harmed more than Kaido is, but Kaido does have a mythical zone fruit which increases his durability, but still just keep that in mind. But after that, Kaido releases a blast breath attack and Oden goes for an attack as well, Paradise Toshka again. Oden this time is able to endure the blast breath and cuts all the way through the attack, making his way to Kaido, in which he lands a clean, unguarded Paradise Toshka on Kaido, permanently scarring Kaido, giving him his famous scar that he had. But after this, we see that Kaido goes straight into base after being hit in his dragon form, and Kaido literally has no other injuries besides the injury he just got from Oden. That truly shows that Kaido just wasn't getting harmed throughout their fight at all, and especially not nearly as much as Oden. After we see Kaido go into his base form, he gets ready to clash with Oden again until Oden is ultimately distracted and knocked out. Now, some people try to use the manga, in which, unlike the anime, instead of showing Kaido go into base form, he is still in his dragon form on the ground as Oden is approaching him. So some people think, oh, from the manga version, Oden would have been able to finish off Kaido before he goes into his base form out of the dragon form because he was knocked out or something. But that is just not true, because then that would mean that manga Kaido seen Oden distracted and still decided to end him off, which is a cheap way, and it's absurd to think that Kaido would do something like that. It makes no sense to Kaido's character, as we literally see him kill the person who distracted Oden because he did not want to win that way. On top of stating when the same thing happened to his battle with Luffy, he stated he did not want to win that way and thanked Luffy for staying alive. So this just further supports the anime only scenes and confirms that this is what happened in the story, as we know the author only has a certain amount of panels, so they can't include everything from the anime and the manga. But this ends Oden and Kaido's fight, with Kaido being the victor after knocking out an off-guard Oden through their fight. Though Oden just shows blatant relativity. As I showed the clip, Oden was just clashing with dragon form Kaido. He clashed with base form Kaido in the castle previously. So this would just scale Oden above the likes of pre-Onigashima raid, Luffy, Kid and Law in the raid, King and Queen. Oden scales above every character that scales under dragon form and base form Kaido, as he scales basically to Kaido's equal in those forms. Now on to Zoro. Zoro first enters the rooftop and intercepts Big Mom's attacks, and as we know, Big Mom is able to fight base Kaido for 3 days, so she scales to base Kaido. But now going on from that, the next attack Zoro does is on base Kaido, and he practically blitzes this Kaido. And as the fight goes on, the supernovas perform well against base Kaido. He decides to transform into his dragon form, which makes him more durable. Zoro, however, is able to still casually deflect attacks from this Kaido and damage Kaido using attacks like Dragon Twister. Kaido then transforms into his hybrid form, which is stated to increase all his physical attributes, which mean he's stronger, faster, and more durable now than his other forms. Kaido and Big Mom decide to launch a joint attack at the supernovas, and Zoro decides to block the attack, and he only blocks it for a second, but he decides to block the attack because he deems it strong enough that if they were to all take a direct hit from it, they would have just been wiped out. This attack caused Zoro to break 20 to 30 bones, which Law confirmed later on when handing him off to Sanji. Zoro still gets up after taking that joint attack and breaking those bones and continues to intercept Big Mom again, and then he tries to force her off the edge to separate her from Kaido, and after successfully doing so, Luffy, who was fighting Kaido, gets beat, and Zoro decides to fight Kaido after that because Kaido was about to end Luffy off. Zoro goes into his Ashura form, clashes a few times with Kaido, and then blitzes Hybrid Kaido, permanently scarring him and arguably giving him a bigger scar than the one that Oden gave him. Zoro, after landing this attack, is however incapacitated, and Kaido goes on to land a Thunder Bagua on this incapacitated Zoro, and that ends his fight with Kaido. Now, before I go on to Zoro versus King, I want to talk about how much stronger Hybrid Kaido is than the Dragon Kaido. Besides the statement that we're giving on him, in the anime version of the fight, it shows Killer, who was able to previously saw through Kaido. His attacks were being deflected just from Kaido's scales alone. Kaido didn't even have to do anything. And even more support than that, Kid stated that he didn't feel like their attacks were doing any more damage in both the manga and the anime version. Now, going on to Zoro versus King though, Zoro gets healed from a drug from Chopper so he can even fight King, because other than that he wouldn't have been able to get up after fighting Kaido. But after Zoro gets healed, he fights King. He uses the same attacks that he used on Dragon Kaido and tries to harm King, but his attacks aren't doing any damage. Zoro then goes on to unlock Advanced Conqueror's Haki during their battle, and his attacks still weren't doing any damage to King after unlocking Advanced Conqueror's Haki. But as he grows through the fight, King is forced to block Zoro's attack, which makes Zoro laughs at him and says, "Oh, I thought my attacks wouldn't do any damage to you," implying that Zoro has now grown strong enough in order to harm King even with his flames on. After that, Zoro goes on to use his final attack, King of Hell, in which he ends King with that attack. I also forgot to put the slide on there. Zoro's Haki was getting drained by his sword the entire fight, so the entire time he was fighting King, he was just majorly fatigued on Haki. So, who wins? Zoro. If you haven't already guessed that, Zoro with his Ashura form would just blitz and overwhelm Kaido. As a gravely injured Zoro was able to do that. So at 100% Zoro would be even stronger, so I don't even see any way that Oden could touch him in that form. But even going to Zoro without that form, he just showed better feats and simply outperformed what Oden did against Kaido. Yeah. And Zoro did that against a hybrid Kaido, which is even stronger than the Kaido that Oden fought. So even without Conquerors or Ashura form, Zoro spanks him, but gaining Conquerors and giving him his Ashura form, Zoro just spanks him even worse. But you let me know whether you agree with me or not in the comments below, but that'll